Ambassador Lee stood frozen at the viewport as strange vessels emerged from the darkness of space. The Earth diplomatic ship had just reached the coordinates for the Galactic Council meeting when the attack began without warning. "Incoming fire," shouted the pilot. Brilliant streaks of blue-white plasma cut through the void. The first shot missed, but the second tore through their ship's hull. Alarms blared as the vessel shuddered. Lee grabbed a handrail to stay upright as the gravity flickered. "We come in peace," Lee said, though no one could hear him except the terrified crew members. He had practiced his speech for months. Earth's first official contact with the galactic community was supposed to be historic. The communication officer tried desperately to broadcast their peaceful intentions on all frequencies, but only static answered. The alien ships were sleek and predatory, their hulls covered in strange markings. Captain Ryu rushed to the bridge, her uniform already stained with blood from helping injured crew members. "Status report," she demanded. "Engines hit. Life support failing. No response to our hails," the communications officer reported. "They're coming around for another pass," the tactical officer warned. Captain Ryu made a quick decision. "We can't fight. Launch the emergency beacon and prepare escape pods." Lee felt numb as he was ushered toward an escape pod. This wasn't how first contact was supposed to go. The ship rocked again as another blast hit them. The diplomatic data. Lee suddenly remembered. "We can't let them take our records." "Already purged," Captain Ryu assured him. "Now go." Lee's escape pod launched moments before the diplomatic vessel broke apart. From his tiny viewport, he watched Earth's first interstellar embassy dissolve into fragments against the stars. The journey back to Earth took 4 days in the cramped pod. Lee spent the time replaying the attack in his mind, wondering what humanity had done to deserve such hostility. When the surviving pods were finally recovered, Earth learned they had unwittingly stumbled into a war zone. Other alien vessels, different from the attackers, had rescued some of the pods. They identify themselves as the Alliance. "Your species has wandered into a conflict that has lasted for centuries," explained Toll, an Alliance representative. "The hegemony controls most of this galactic sector. We fight for freedom." The Alliance brought the survivors to a hidden base where Lee was shown star maps and battle records. Earth was positioned at the edge of contested space, a frontier the hegemony was determined to control. "But why attack us?" Lee asked. "We didn't choose sides. We didn't even know about your war." Toll's expression shifted to something like pity. "The hegemony does not recognize neutral parties. They see your sudden appearance with advanced spacecraft as a threat." Back on Earth, government scrambled to respond to this unexpected crisis. The United Earth Defense Council gathered in their underground chamber beneath Geneva. Lee and the other survivors were rushed there to provide testimony. "They see us as vermin," Commander Park reported, standing before the council with images of the alien ships displayed on the wall behind him. "The hegemony considers our technology primitive, but our adaptability dangerous." "What does that mean?" asked the council president. "It means they fear what we might become," Park explained. "The Alliance informants tell us the hegemony has studied our broadcasts for decades. They know our history. They know how quickly we advance." A murmur went through the room. Earth had only developed faster than light travel 15 years ago. The idea that aliens had been watching them for so long was disturbing. "The Alliance offered to help defend us," Lee added, "but their resources are stretched thin across multiple fronts." The council was still debating when the first hegemony ships appeared in Earth's orbit. They came without warning. 5 massive vessels that dwarfed anything humans had built. Earth's orbital defense platforms opened fire immediately. The space stations that humanity had considered impressive achievements of engineering seemed tiny against the invaders. Hegemony weapons tore through the defenses with ease. Captain Kim commanded the Lunar Defense Base, Earth's most fortified military installation off-planet. His team tracked the destruction of each orbital platform with growing horror. "Focus all power on the main cannon," Kim ordered as enemy ships approached the moon. "We'll only get one shot." The lunar cannon, Earth's largest weapon, fired a massive energy beam at the Leave hegemony vessel. For a moment, hope flickered as the beam hit its target. The alien ship's shields flared bright, but held. "Impossible," whispered Kim's weapons officer. That was a direct hit. The hegemony ships turned toward the lunar base. Kim opened a channel to Earth. "Luna base to command. Enemy shields withstood our primary weapon. They're targeting us now. We cannot match their firepower, but we will never surrender." The transmission ended as hegemony ships rained destruction on the lunar base. Earth watched helplessly as its first line of defense fell. In the chaos that followed, Dr. Ba worked tirelessly in her underground laboratory. 6 months earlier, a small alien craft had crashed in the Pacific Ocean. Most assumed it was a meteorite, but Ba's team had recovered strange technology from the wreckage. Now that technology might be Earth's only hope. The material composition is unlike anything in our periodic table, Ba explained to the military officials who crowded her lab. And this component appears to manipulate gravity itself. She held up a small device that glowed with an inner light. It was no larger than her palm, but weighed almost nothing. "Can we use it as a weapon?" a general asked. Ba shook her head. "It's a drive component, part of their propulsion system. If we can understand it, we might be able to improve our own ships." She turned the device carefully, studying how the light shifted within it. "There's something here," she whispered, examining the peculiar drive component. "Something we can use." As Bai spoke, hegemony ships began systematic attacks on Earth's major cities. The war that would determine humanity's future had begun. No one knew it yet, but the tiny component in Dr. Ba's hand would eventually become the heart of Earth's greatest warship, the USS Blackstar. 6 months into the war with the hegemony, Earth was losing badly. Billions were now living underground in hastily built shelters. The night skies, once filled with stars, now flashed with the distant explosions of space battles that humanity rarely won. In a secret facility beneath the Pacific Ocean, Admiral Han stood with his hands clasped behind his back. The holographic blueprints floating before him showed a massive ship unlike any Earth had built before. "Is this even possible?" he asked, his voice revealing doubt despite his military bearing. Dr. Choi stepped forward, adjusting his glasses with one finger. Despite working nonstop for weeks, his eyes were bright with excitement. "Theoretically," he replied, "the Blackstar can be retrofitted with the reverse-engineered gravity technology. It's our only chance." The U.S. Blackstar had been Earth's most advanced warship before the invasion, though it now seemed primitive compared to hegemony vessels. It sat in a hidden underwater dock, surrounded by engineers and scientists working around the clock. "How long?" the admiral asked. 3 months, maybe 4. Han shook his head. "We have 6 weeks. Intelligence reports a hegemony armada gathering near Jupiter." Dr. Choi started to object, but stopped himself. "We'll need more resources, and more personnel." "You'll have whatever you need," Han promised. "This project is now Earth's top priority." The next day, workers from around the world were quietly transferred to the underwater base. Many were told only that they were working on a vital defense project. The true nature of the Blackstar was known to few. Dr. Ba led the propulsion team, working to integrate the alien technology she had discovered before the war. The strange gravity device had been carefully studied, copied, and expanded into a full drive system. "The aliens use gravity itself as a weapon and a shield," she explained to her team. "We'll do the same." In the massive underwater hangar, the Blackstar underwent a radical transformation. Its sleek hull, once designed for stealth in Earth's atmosphere, now housed experimental systems no human had fully tested. Where conventional engines once sat, gravity manipulators now hummed with power. The weapon systems were rebuilt to focus gravitational waves rather than traditional explosives. Admiral Han visited weekly, watching as the ship changed from a recognizable human vessel into something new, a hybrid of Earth and alien technology. Each time, He looked more worried. "We're trying to leap forward a century in technology in just weeks," Dr. Choi admitted during one visit. "There are risks." "Greater than the risk of extinction?" Han asked. Choi had no answer for that. 3 weeks before the deadline, Captain Song arrived at the facility. She had commanded small scout ships before the war, but had never led a vessel like the Blackstar. At 40, she was younger than most captains of her rank, but her record showed a brilliant tactical mind. "Welcome to Project Blackstar," Admiral Han said, showing her the ship through the observation window. "Humanity's last hope." Song studied the vessel with a critical eye. "She looks different." "She is. Nothing like her has ever existed before." The next day, Lieutenant Kang stood beside Captain Song as they reviewed the crew assignments. Kang's expression grew increasingly concerned as he scrolled through the names. "They're sending us the rejects," he muttered, forgetting for a moment that he was standing next to his new captain. Song didn't reprimand him. Instead, she smiled slightly. "Not rejects. Free thinkers. We need people who don't follow the standard playbook." Kang looked doubtful. This pilot was grounded for insubordination. This engineer was fired from 3 civilian jobs for experimental modifications to critical systems. "Exactly the people we need," Song replied. "The hegemony wins because they fought the same way for centuries. They've mastered conventional warfare. We can't beat them by following rules they wrote." Over the next days, the crew assembled. They were an unusual group, brilliant misfits who had struggled to fit into military or civilian life before the war. Some came from the few Earth ships that had survived encounters with the hegemony. Others were theoretical scientists who had never served on a vessel before. Dr. Ba worked with them daily, teaching them how to operate the new systems. "This isn't like any technology you've used before," she warned. "Think of gravity as clay you can shape with these controls. It wants to flow certain ways, but you can redirect it." Many struggled with the concepts. Some wondered openly if the ship would work at all. 2 weeks before launch, they conducted the first full power test. The Blackstar's gravity systems activated, creating a bubble around the ship that distorted light itself. For 20 seconds, everything worked perfectly. Then alarms blared as power fluctuations rippled through the vessel. "Shut it down," Dr. Choi shouted over the communication system. The test ended with minor damage but major concerns. The engineers worked through 3 nights without rest to stabilize the systems. 5 days before the scheduled launch, Admiral Han received troubling news. The hegemony fleet has changed course. They're moving faster than predicted. He called an emergency meeting with Captain Song and the science team. "How soon can the Blackstar be ready?" he asked. Dr. Choi looked to Dr. Ba, who hesitated before answering. "The main systems are functioning, but we haven't completed full integration testing. The weapon systems are particularly unstable. But it can fly." Han pressed. "Yes," Ba admitted. "The gravity drive works." "Then we launch tomorrow," Han decided. "The hegemony armada has been detected passing Neptune's orbit. At their current speed, they'll reach Earth in 5 days." The announcement sent the base into frantic activity. Crew members were summoned to their stations. Last-minute supplies were loaded. Captain Song gathered her officers on the bridge for a final briefing. "This ship represents everything humanity knows and everything we've learned from our enemies," she told them. "None of us asked for this responsibility, but here we are. The Blackstar may be experimental, but so is every advance in history. Someone has to go first." As dawn broke over the Pacific, the massive underwater doors opened. The Blackstar rose from the ocean, water cascading from its dark hull. It hovered momentarily above the waves, its gravity systems creating an eerie calm in the sea below. Then, with a flash of energy that momentarily outshone the rising sun, the U.S. Blackstar shot upward toward the stars, humanity's last, best hope against extinction. The launch countdown had ended. The mission to save Earth had begun. The U.S. Blackstar pushed through space at impossible speeds, Captain Song watched the view screen as stars streaked past in beautiful lines of light. For 8 minutes, the experimental gravity drive performed perfectly, carrying them toward the hegemony fleet that threatened Earth. Then everything went wrong. The bridge lights flickered. The ship shuddered violently. Engineer Yoon's face drained of color as she stared at her console readings. Drive failure, she shouted as alarms blared across the bridge. The Blackstar tumbled through unfamiliar space, spinning out of control. Cut power to the gravity core, Captain Song ordered, gripping her command chair as the ship bucked beneath her. Yoon worked frantically, her fingers flying across the control panel. The safety protocols aren't responding. The core is stuck in an energy loop. Lieutenant Kang was thrown from his station as the ship lurched again. Medical alerts sounded from the lower decks. The main lights failed, leaving only the red emergency lighting. Manual override, Song commanded. Shut it down completely. Yoon nodded and ran to a panel on the wall. She pulled it open, revealing a complex array of circuits. Without hesitation, she yanked out 3 crucial components. The ship gave one final shudder, then went eerily still as the gravity drive powered down. In the sudden silence, everyone on the bridge looked to Captain Song. "Damage report," she said calmly, though her heart hammered in her chest. "Hull integrity at 89%, reported the tactical officer. Minor injuries reported on decks 3 and 4. No casualties." Song nodded. "Where are we?" Navigator Bake bent over his instruments, confusion crossing his face. "Captain, according to stellar positioning, we're over 50 light-years from Earth. We're nowhere near our intended coordinates." The crew exchanged worried glances. The Blackstar had been designed to defend Earth against the approaching hegemony fleet. Now they were lost in space, their experimental drive damaged. "Can we repair the drive?" Song asked Yoon. The engineer looked uncertain. "I can try, but this was theoretical technology even before it malfunctioned. I'll need time." "Time is something Earth doesn't have," Song reminded her. "Do your best." Navigator Bake suddenly straightened. "Captain, I'm detecting artificial structures. A space station and ships. We're not alone out here." Before Song could respond, Communications Officer CO called out, "We're being scanned. Multiple vessels approaching. Weapons hot." On the view screen, several sleek ships appeared, surrounding the damaged Blackstar. Their design was different from the hegemony vessels Earth had faced, but they were clearly advanced alien craft. "Alliance territory," Navigator Bake confirmed after checking his readings against their database. "They're hailing us." Captain Song straightened her uniform. On screen, the view screen flickered, and an alien face appeared. The being had pale blue skin and large, compound eyes that narrowed suspiciously. It spoke in a harsh, clicking language that the ship's translator processed. "Hegemony spies," it hissed, mandibles quivering with anger. "You dare enter our space with your stolen technology." Captain Song stood tall. "We are from Earth, seeking passage home. We are not hegemony. We are victims of the same enemy." The alien commander made a dismissive gesture. "Your ship contains hegemony technology. Our scanners detect it clearly." "Reverse engineered," Song explained. "We adapted it from a crashed vessel. Earth is under attack. We need to return to defend our planet." The alien seemed unconvinced. "You will power down completely and prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will be met with destruction." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in tense silence. "Options?" Song asked her officers. "We can't fight," Tactical Officer Nam said. "Not in our condition, and not against so many." "And we can't run," added Yoon. "The drive needs major repairs." Song nodded. "Then we cooperate. For now." As the Alliance ships moved closer, Commander Jin approached the captain. "Ma'am, long-range sensors detected something else. There's a damaged ship adrift nearby. Alliance design, but not responding to their calls." Song considered this information. "They're focused on us. seeing us as the threat. They might not have the resources to help their own people right now. Jin nodded in understanding. It could be an opportunity, a gesture of goodwill. Despite their own problems, Song made a decision that would change everything. Prepare a rescue team. We'll help that ship while they're preparing to board us. The Alliance commander was furious when informed of the Blackstar's intentions, but Song stood firm. Those could be your people dying. We have medical facilities and can reach them before you complete your boarding preparations. Let us help. Reluctantly, the Alliance gave permission. A team led by Commander Jin took a shuttle to the damaged Alliance vessel. What they found was grim. The ship had been attacked, leaving only 12 survivors from a crew of 40. Jin's team worked quickly to stabilize the injured aliens and bring them back to the Blackstar. Among the rescued was Captain Rock, a senior Alliance officer. Though badly injured, he watched with suspicion as Earth doctors treated his wounds. "Why help us?" he asked Song when she visited the medical bay. "Because it's the right thing to do," she answered simply. Hours later, after the Alliance had thoroughly searched the Blackstar and verified Song's claims, tensions began to ease. Captain Rock, now recovering, grudgingly provided assistance. "Your drive design is flawed," he told Engineer Yoon as he examined her schematics. "The containment field cannot handle the gravitational resonance." With Rock's guidance, Yoon began understanding what had gone wrong. The two worked side by side, an unlikely partnership born of necessity. Late that night, Captain Rock asked to speak with Song privately. His expression was grave. "You saved my crew when you had no obligation to do so," he acknowledged. "So I will tell you something important. The hegemony builds a weapon that will destroy your homeworld," he warned. "Nothing can stop it." Song felt her blood run cold. "What kind of weapon?" "A gravity dissociator," Rock explained. "It creates a cascading failure in planetary gravitational fields. Your world will tear itself apart." "How long do we have?" "The weapon is nearly complete. Once it reaches Earth, perhaps days." Song fought to maintain her composure. Earth was already facing the hegemony armada. Now there was an even greater threat approaching. From her station across the room, Engineer Yoon had been listening. She looked up from her console, eyes suddenly bright with an idea. "We might," she said softly. Both Song and Rock turned to her. "We might what?" Song asked. "We might be able to stop it," Yoon explained, growing more animated. "The way our drive malfunctioned, it created a gravity anomaly. I thought it was a flaw, but what if it's not? What if we could control it, direct it? Use your own gravity weapon against theirs," Rock said, understanding dawning on his alien features. "Exactly," Yoon nodded. "But we'd need to get close to the weapon. Very close." Captain Song looked between them, hope and determination hardening her resolve. "Then that's what we'll do," she decided. "Can you help us repair our ship, Captain Rock?" The Alliance officer studied her for a long moment before nodding slowly. "I will do more than that," he said. "I will show you how to reach the weapon installation undetected." As the Alliance and Earth crews began working together, the impossible mission took shape. The Blackstar would need to be ready quickly. They would need to infiltrate the heart of hegemony territory, and they would need to face a weapon capable of destroying worlds. The trial by fire had only just begun. The Blackstar drifted silently through hegemony space, its experimental cloaking system straining against detection grids. The ship moved slowly, using minimal power to avoid creating energy signatures that might be detected. On the bridge, the crew spoke in hushed tones, as if the enemy might hear them through the vacuum of space. Captain Song sat in her command chair, outwardly calm though her fingers tapped a nervous rhythm on the armrest. "Status of the cloaking field?" she asked. Engineer Yoon checked her readings, holding at 94% efficiency. "The modifications from Captain Rock's team are working better than expected." The Alliance had not only helped repair the Blackstar's damaged drive, but had also shared technology to help them infiltrate hegemony territory. The ship now emitted a false signature that would identify it as a minor hegemony supply vessel if detected. Navigator Bake guided them through the complex network of hegemony patrol routes. "Next checkpoint in 20 minutes, he reported. 8 hegemony cruisers ahead. Song nodded. "Maintain course. Slow to 1/4 speed." The plan was daring, perhaps foolish. Captain Rock had provided coordinates to the hegemony's superweapon facility. The Blackstar would infiltrate, gather intelligence, and, if possible, sabotage the weapon before it could reach Earth. Science Officer Wang bent over his station, monitoring hegemony communications. The ship's computers were translating and decoding the signals that filled hegemony space. "Captain," he called softly, "I'm picking up something interesting." Song joined him at his station. "What is it?" "Recording data," Science Officer Wang whispered, adjusting his headset. "Their communications suggest the ruling tribunal has manipulated both sides for generations." He played a decoded transmission. The harsh, clicking language of the hegemony elite discussed troop movements and battle plans, but also mentioned maintaining the conflict equilibrium and ensuring neither side achieves dominance. "They're prolonging the war deliberately," Song realized, her expression hardening. "But why?" "Resources, perhaps," Wang suggested. "Or power. The tribunal maintains control through war production and military authority." This new information changed their understanding of the conflict. The hegemony's attack on Earth wasn't just expansion. It was the elimination of a potential threat to a carefully manufactured war. The Blackstar continued its dangerous journey deeper into enemy territory. 2 days later, they reached a small trading outpost on the edge of a nebula. According to Rock's intelligence, they would find help there, a contact within the hegemony resistance. Commander Jin led a small team to the outpost, disguised as traders. The bustling market was filled with various alien species, most working as servants or laborers for the hegemony elite. Jin followed the instructions Rock had given, finding a small shop selling mechanical parts. The shopkeeper, a hunched figure with gray scales, barely looked at Jin as he entered. When Jin spoke the code phrase, the shopkeeper merely nodded toward a back room. Inside waited a tall, proud hegemony male. Unlike most of his kind, he wore no military insignia, no clan markings. "You are from Earth," he stated rather than asked. "I am Mok." Hours later, Mok was brought secretly aboard the Blackstar. In a shadowy meeting room, Captain Song faced the hegemony defector. "Why help us?" she asked directly. "Your people are winning this war." Mok's large eyes blinked slowly. "My people suffer too," he said. "Help us end this. The tribunal keeps us enslaved through endless conflict. Most hegemony citizens are not warriors but workers, forced to feed the war machine." He revealed that many hegemony worlds were on the verge of rebellion. The superweapon was designed not just to destroy Earth, but to demonstrate the tribunal's power to their own people. "If Earth falls so dramatically, the resistance will lose hope," Mok explained. "But if you can strike at the weapon facility, it would show the tribunal is not all-powerful." Mok provided detailed information about the facility's defenses and patrol schedules. He also gave them access codes that would help them penetrate the outer security perimeter. "These will work for approximately 8 hours before the system detects the intrusion," he warned. The next day, the Blackstar approached its target. The superweapon facility orbited a dying star, its defenses seemingly impenetrable. The massive structure gleamed against the red glow of the fading sun. Defense satellites formed a web around it, while patrol ships moved in precise patterns. "Those are energy-dampening fields," Hume observed, studying the sensor readings. "Our weapons would be useless against them. And our drive would fail if we tried to push through," added Navigator Bake. The crew gathered for a final strategy session. Tactical Officer Nam displayed a 3-dimensional map of the facility, highlighting potential entry points. "We have one path," Tactical Officer Nam pointed out, indicating a narrow corridor between sensor arrays. "It's practically suicide. We'd need to time our approach perfectly with the solar flares from the dying star." When the radiation peaks, their sensors will be temporarily blind. How long would that give us? Song asked. 3 minutes, maybe 4, Nan replied. Enough to slip past the outer defenses. The plan formed quickly. A small team would take a shuttle during the sensor blackout. They would dock with the facility using MOX access codes, download the weapon schematics, and plant explosives at key points. Captain Song insisted on leading the mission herself, despite objections from her officers. "This is too important to delegate," she told them. "Commander Jin will remain in command of the Blackstar." The waiting was the hardest part. For 6 hours, the Blackstar hid behind a small moon, watching for the right moment. When the star began its predicted flare cycle, they moved into position. Radiation surge in 3, 2, 1. Science Officer Huang counted down. The star erupted in a massive flare, bathing the area in blinding radiation. The Blackstar darted forward, navigating the narrow path between sensor arrays. The shuttle launched, carrying Song and her small team toward the facility. Using MOX codes, they docked at an auxiliary maintenance port. Inside, they moved quickly through dimly lit corridors, avoiding patrol routes. They reached the central data hub with 2 minutes to spare. "Download initiated," reported Lieutenant Kang, connecting their data device to the hegemony system. "Charges set," added Security Officer Gill. "Ready to detonate on your command." Song watched the download progress, acutely aware of the passing seconds. At 98% complete, the alarms began. "We've been detected," Kang warned. "Complete the download," Song ordered. "We're not leaving without those schematics." The data transfer finished just as the first security drones rounded the corner. The team retreated under heavy fire, racing back to their shuttle. 2 of Song's team were hit by energy weapons, but managed to keep moving. As they undocked from the facility, Song sent the detonation signal. Explosions ripped through key sections of the superweapon facility, causing chain reactions throughout the structure. The shuttle raced back toward the Blackstar, pursued by hegemony fighters. The larger ship moved to cover their approach, taking multiple hits in the process. "Shuttle secured," came the report as Song's team made it back aboard. "Get us out of here," Song ordered as she rushed to the bridge. The Blackstar's engines flared as it turned to escape, but the gravity drive, still not fully repaired, strained under the sudden demand for power. Hegemony warships closed in from all sides. "Evasive pattern Delta," Commander Jin called out. The ship twisted through space, avoiding the worst of the enemy fire. But they couldn't dodge everything. Plasma fire tore through the Blackstar's port section, ripping open decks and causing catastrophic damage. "Hull breach on decks 4 through 6, reported the damage control officer. "Emergency force fields activated." Despite the damage, the Blackstar managed to activate its gravity drive. Space distorted around them as they made their desperate jump away from the facility. They had succeeded in their mission. The superweapon facility was crippled, and they had obtained crucial data about the weapon itself. But the cost had been high. The Blackstar was severely damaged, with systems failing throughout the ship. As they limped away from hegemony space, Captain Song looked at the precious data they had risked everything to obtain. Now they just had to make it back to Earth before the remaining hegemony forces launched their final attack. The journey home took 3 days. The Blackstar limped through space, its damaged systems barely functioning. Half the ship was sealed off due to hull breaches. 32 crew members had died during their escape from hegemony space. The survivors worked without rest to keep the ship moving. Captain Song had not slept in over 40 hours. She stood on the bridge, studying the tactical displays that showed the situation waiting for them at Earth. It was worse than they had feared. The hegemony fleet had arrived ahead of schedule. Nearly 50 warships surrounded Earth, methodically destroying the planet's defenses. Earth's remaining ships fought bravely, but were overwhelmed by superior numbers and technology. "How long until we reach Earth space?" Song asked. Navigator Bake checked his instruments. "Approximately 6 hours at current speed." "That may be too late," Commander Jin said quietly. Song shook her head. "We won't be too late. We can't be." She turned to Communications Officer Seo. "Send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we're coming, and tell them we have a way to defeat the hegemony." The data they had stolen from the superweapon facility had been analyzed constantly during their return journey. Engineer Yoon and Science Officer Wang had made a remarkable discovery about hegemony shield technology, something that might give Earth a fighting chance. 5 hours later, the Blackstar prepared for its final jump to Earth. The gravity drive had been pushed well beyond safe limits during their escape. One more jump might destroy the ship completely. "All hands, secure for light speed," Song ordered. "This will be rough." The ship shuddered violently as the drive engaged. Warning alarms blared across every deck as structural integrity fields strained to hold the damaged vessel together. For a terrible moment, it seemed the Blackstar might tear itself apart. Then, with a final lurch, the ship emerged from light speed directly above Earth. The blue-green planet filled the view screen, partially obscured by the massive hegemony fleet that surrounded it. Explosions flashed across Earth's surface where enemy weapons struck. Earth's orbital defenses were failing when the damaged Blackstar emerged from light speed. The last human space station crumbled under hegemony fire even as they watched. "We made it," Captain Song said, blood trickling from a wound on her forehead where she had struck a console during the rough jump. The bridge crew stared at the devastating scene before them. Earth's remaining ships, less than 20, were clustered in a defensive formation above the North American continent. The hegemony fleet was closing in for the final attack. "Transmit our findings to Earth Command immediately," Song ordered. On Earth, in the underground command center, Dr. Bai received the Blackstar's transmission. She had been working with military leaders to coordinate Earth's failing defense. The data from the Blackstar gave her new hope. Dr. Bai examined the stolen data, her eyes widening as she understood its implications. "Their shield harmonics have a fluctuation pattern. If we time
She quickly
our attacks
explained to
precisely."
the generals.
Every hegemony shield system had a microscopic weakness, a split-second fluctuation that occurred in regular intervals. It was too brief to detect without knowing exactly what to look for, but the Blackstar had captured the precise timing patterns. On the main communication screen, the hegemony commander appeared, his alien features twisted in what might have been satisfaction. "Your defenses are broken," the commander said. "Your planet stands unprotected. Surrender now, and some of your people may be permitted to live as servants." The Earth generals looked to each other, considering their options. Before they could respond, Captain Song's voice came through on an open channel. "This is Captain Song of the USS Blackstar. I will speak for Earth." The hegemony commander's compound eyes narrowed. "The rogue ship that damaged our facility. Your interference changes nothing." The hegemony commander demanded Earth's surrender. Instead, they received Captain Song's reply, "Not today." The connection cut off. The hegemony commander roared orders to his fleet. "Destroy the Blackstar first, then finish Earth." Song opened a channel to all Earth vessels. "This is Captain Song. We have identified a critical weakness in hegemony shield systems. Transmitting timing data now. Coordinate all weapons to fire at precisely the same moment, targeting their shield generators." The battle that followed would be studied for generations. The Blackstar, systems failing and hull breached, led Earth's remaining ships in a maneuver no hegemony tactician had anticipated. The human ships formed a sphere around the Blackstar, using its modified gravity drive to create a distortion field. When the hegemony ships fired, their energy weapons curved around the human vessels, sometimes striking other hegemony ships instead. At Song's command, the Earth fleet split into 3 groups, attacking from different vectors. Each ship targeted a different hegemony vessel, but all fired at the exact same microsecond, the precise moment when the enemy shields fluctuated. The hegemony commanders were confused by this new tactic. Their shields registered full power, yet somehow the human weapons penetrated them easily. One by one, hegemony ships lost shield generators, weapon systems, and engines. The Blackstar itself engaged the hegemony flagship, the massive vessel that coordinated the entire enemy fleet. Using the last of its power, the Blackstar created a gravity spike, a concentrated distortion that bypassed shields entirely. All power to the gravity lance, Som ordered. One shot is all we get. The Blackstar's makeshift weapon fired, a barely visible ripple in space that struck the hegemony flagship directly. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the enemy ship's hull began to buckle as gravity itself crushed specific sections from the inside. When it ended, the hegemony flagship drifted powerless. The coordinated Earth attack had disabled 17 enemy vessels in the first wave. The remaining hegemony ships, seeing their command ship crippled, hesitated. It was in this moment that a new fleet appeared at the edge of the solar system. Massive ships of unknown design approached rapidly. Earth's defenders prepared for this new threat, but Song recognized the ship configurations. "Hold fire," she ordered. "Those are Galactic Council vessels." The Council, witnessing humanity's resolve and the Blackstar's daring attack, had finally intervened. Their ships dwarfed even the largest hegemony vessels. A transmission came from the Lid Council ship. "This conflict has gone too far," announced a Council representative. "The balance of the galaxy is threatened. We order all hegemony forces to withdraw immediately." The hegemony commander had no choice but to comply. One by one, the enemy ships turned away from Earth and departed. The war that had nearly destroyed humanity was over. In the days that followed, Earth learned the full story of the Blackstar's mission. Captain Song and her crew were hailed as heroes. The technology they had brought back, both from the Alliance and from the hegemony, would transform human science for generations. The Galactic Council formally recognized Earth as a sovereign power and invited human representatives to join their ranks. The evidence of the hegemony tribunal's manipulation of the war led to political upheaval within the hegemony itself. Malk and other reformers began building a new government. 5 years later, Captain Song stood on the observation deck of the rebuilt Blackstar, watching representatives from 100 worlds gather for the Peace Summit. The ship, once a desperate experiment, was now a symbol of hope throughout the galaxy. Its gravity technology had been refined and shared with allied worlds. Commander Jin joined her at the viewport. "Quite a gathering," he said, nodding toward the alien vessels arriving for the summit. "The beginning of a new era," Som replied. Jin looked thoughtfully at the stars beyond. "We were never meant to win," her first officer remarked. "Not against an enemy with centuries of advanced technology." "No," she agreed, "but we were meant to survive." Som placed her hand against the cold glass of the viewport, thinking of all those who had been lost during the war. Their sacrifice had ensured that humanity would have a place among the stars. Below them, Earth turned peacefully, its night side glittering with city lights. Above, ships from across the galaxy converged for a peace that might finally last. The Blackstar had changed everything. And now, its next mission would begin. The end.